Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we roll along here with Wednesday's NBA playoff slate. 2 games to look at between the Eastern Conference. One, the Celtics and the Heat there. Got the Pellies and the Thunder as well. We're bringing you best bets in this video and also have player props up in a separate episode. And we're bringing you those each and every day now moving forward through this postseason. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also, head to thelines.com and use everything that we're putting up on the site these days to help you with all these bets you're making this postseason. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first best bet from that Pels and Thunder game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Pelicans again here at plus 7.5. I mean, the plus 8 obviously hit in spades in game 1. And I don't know if I'm just feeling a bit bullish because the numbers indicated to me that it would happen. But I mean, I don't see anything to indicate that this won't be another close game, that this won't be like a rock fight throughout the series, that it's actually very evenly matched. I mean, which we know with the Western Conference 1 through 8, it always, everything's going to just be about matchups. It's not like, oh, the Thunder's the 1 seed, they're unstoppable. In any case, I mean, the game was only played at a 94 pace. And the fourth quarter was only 94 pace. So I'm also throwing out a bet here for fourth quarter under again, 53.5 points under. I mean, the team shot 37% and 41% in that fourth quarter for a combined 44 points. They only combined actually for 45 points their last regular season meeting in late March. And SGA, as we highlighted, has the lowest effective field goal percentage against the Pelicans than any Western Conference team this year. He, in the fourth quarter in the last 3 seasons, only averages 7 points on 36% shooting against Herb Jones and company. And so this is part of my cap for the Pelicans, though, is that, I mean, SGA can't be completely superhuman against this team. J-Dub does a good job offsetting, but that there's going to be positive regression for the Pelicans tandem here. BI and CJ also struggled against that physical defense of the Thunder. They shot only 36% in game 1. Can't possibly be that bad again, first of all. But I mean, if you say they don't have as good of a tandem, but they have a better supporting cast, they have more depth. The Pelicans' depth has been something to highlight since Zion went down. We all love Trey Murphy. We saw what Jonas did to Chet, just absolutely crushed him, and how that kind of tilted the Thunder defense, allowing the Pelicans to get 15 corner threes. That highly valued shot only hit one for 15 on corner threes. That's going to come home. I mean, otherwise, like, who is OKC getting to help this tandem? Josh Giddey benched with a 46 offensive rating. Chet only a 91 offensive rating, not necessarily able to make the Pels pay for playing Joe Val on defense. Like, he was just all right offensively, and then they mix it in with Nance. And I mean, down the stretch, like fourth quarter here stuff. I mean, Nola limits free throws on the road. Both are top 5 limiting 3-point attempts in the fourth quarter. Nola is so much better in the clutch on the road than at home. They had a plus 50 net on the road versus negative 32 at home down the stretch here in the post All-Star break. They only played at a 92 pace in those situations. OKC's offense, not great, 27th in assist to turnover ratio, but at home in the fourth quarter, number 1 3-point defense, number 5 field goal defense, and suddenly their rebounding rate jumps up to elite when it's just like not great for the rest of the game. But in the fourth quarter, they finish possessions, they get stops. I think both teams will continue to get stops and just play really good defense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think they'll both play really good defense the whole game. To be honest with you, I still think under for the whole game is the play here rather than over. I'm not going to necessarily take a side in this one, but I am going to talk about one of these game leader props that you can get on DraftKings here. And I'm going to start with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be the assist leader in the game. I just don't think that at plus 320 on DraftKings, I like that juice. And, you know, obviously you can temper your units here. It's a nice 3-1 on your money bet, so you don't have to go like a full unit on it. I think a half a unit play is still about where I would cap this, but at the same time, like I'm going to sprinkle on this situation where this dude has had a game this year against the Pellies with 16 potential assists and 8 dimes, and led the game in passing twice. In fact, I would have argued that his biggest threat two assists would have been Zion being in there, to be honest, because of the way that he crashes into the lane against this team and then is either triple teamed because Chet certainly cannot handle him one-on-one, or he goes up. And when he got doubled and tripled in the lane, he's got a lot of wide open assists because this Thunder team is pretty bad at limiting spot up shooters. But that would have been the biggest threat to me in this situation. Now CJ and Brandon Ingram are going to kind of split the duties of assist guys for the Pellies, which does leave Shai, I think, a little bit more open to be the primary, let's say, playmaker for the Thunder. Now, like J-Dub had a few more potential assists in game one. I do think there was a little bit of like SGA trying to force it, whereas like and they were trying to force the ball out of his hands. And Herb Jones, we know, all-world defender as well, is going to continue to be a problem for him. And by the way, Herb Jones would be that guy too that I would say could really help them. You were talking about how bad they were from corner threes, and that's Herb Jones's world. I was correctly predicting that he would shoot like 6 to 7 threes, and he took, I think, 8 of them, only made 2 of them. So like, yeah, there's some positive regression for Herb Jones that could definitely be coming as like a 40% corner 3 shooter, just to point that out to you as well. But yeah, for SGA here, like I said, they forced the ball out of his hands. He had 8 potential assists in game one, but took 24 shots and was only 11 for 24. And a good amount of those were forced, honestly. If you watched it, like there was a lot of mid-range forcing. There was a couple threes that I think he just ended up taking because it was like, I'm so tired of going into this defense and the teeth of it. And then just getting like, held or like having long arms come out of nowhere around me and poke at the ball. And there were a couple of like, I'm just tired and I want to shoot a 3 threes out there. But I would say that like, if he's watching tape, that would be where he becomes more efficient, is like, take what the defense gives you. And as soon as you see the double coming to you, that means there's going to be somebody open here in a minute. And he had a good amount of secondary assists because I think he was a little bit late in getting rid of the ball when that trap came to him, right? Like this was a game that I watched beginning to end because it was the best game of the playoffs at the time, for sure, until we had basketball a couple of nights ago. That was insane. But and that was the case consistently for him. He in the 4 games he's played, Nola, this year, 47 potential assists. That actually leads the series between them for any team, but that's in part because a couple guys missed a lot the games for the Pellies here that I think maybe would have gotten a few more potentials. But still, 47 leads his team. J-Dub in the 3 during the regular season, actually 4 including this last game, has 39 potential assists versus this team this year. And I was thinking about making a case for him at like plus 500 J-Dub as well to potentially do it, because he has had as many potential assists as second to SGA, but as many as anybody on the Pellies as well in the regular season series. But at the same time, like I can just see Shai being a little bit more aggressive with his passing, if you will, rather than like trying to get to his shot every single time. And like I said, in the regular season, 2 of the 3 that he played in, he was the leading assist getter. So I'm going to just take him at a really nice 3-1 here with a little sprinkle to lead this game in assists.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, SGA shot 33% on drives and only passed out of the drive thrice. So yeah, not really understanding. He's been in the playoffs before, but he hasn't been the man in the playoffs, which he clearly is. And the Pelicans are clearly going to make other people beat them, and they're going to throw all sorts of help at SGA, get him off his spots, and he's going to have to be more of a playmaker. I think, yeah, CJ is probably the guy you worry about in terms of out assisting him, just having a better game here. But the Pelicans are so balanced. Like, this is what I'm talking about. I love their depth. I love their balance. I think CJ and BI could both have 5-6 assists, but then they're just not going to have the ball in their hands quite as much as SGA, who is a heliocentric player. So Miami at Boston, I will take a pick in this game. I know everybody just kind of wants to gloss over it with the plus 15, but I'm going to go Heat plus 8.5 first half. Say, maybe Boston pulls away and buries them. Like, I don't really want to mess with the spread in a fourth quarter that could be out of hand, because as we saw, the Heat came furiously back and almost backdoored covered despite being down 30 in game one. So some wonky stuff could happen there. But what I do trust is Eric Spoelstra to throw his mojo out there, probably some junk zones, probably some weird defensive schemes that keep Miami in this game initially. Also some negative regression shooting the ball for Boston. They go 22 for 49 from deep, just absurd 3-point shooting. The Heat, on short rest, really struggled to limit threes. In fact, they played Boston thrice. They gave up 55% from deep in one of those games. That was a back-to-back, unsurprisingly. It was 41% the other two. And in the other two, they're only down 5 and 4 at the half. And you look on 2 days rest this year, they hold opponents under 35% from deep. They allow 4 fewer attempts from deep. They're actually 12 and 4 on 2 days rest or more days rest. So they definitely are more competitive in that situation. I know they don't have Jimmy, but they do have Spo. They have Bam. They have Spo. They have guys who are just going to play a little bit of better defense here. And you look in the playoffs last year. I mean, they also got kind of smoked in game one by Boston, lost by 9 in the first half, won the next two first halves by 4 and 15. That's the Spoelstra adjustments. Even against Denver, where they were out of gas and just clearly outclassed and had no chance in the series, they only lost games 2, 3, 4 by 6, 5, and 4 points in the first half, and actually won the first half in game 5 before Denver did their thing, running away down the stretch. So I think that's really relevant stuff. Like game 1, Spoelstra is kind of getting his feet wet, understanding what they need to do, what they need to adjust, and what dials he needs to turn. And I think at least in the first half of this game, he will be able to push some buttons to keep his team close.
Yeah, fully concur with that as well. I would be a bit terrified to take the full game for the Heat to cover, just because if Boston starts raining threes at any particular juncture for a stretch of time, then yeah, that would be terrifying. But that's the thing with Boston in the playoffs, man. To me, like, I mean, I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to have an argument right now about Boston. But that's the thing about Boston is just like there's the variance, and I think in this one, like Spo has got one game under his belt to game plan for this, and yeah, Spo over Joe Mazzulla is really a reason that like you would even consider the Heat as a potential like underdog that could pull this game off. Although in their recent series as well, I mean they pulled out some stuff right when we did not expect it as big underdogs in this type of situation last year too. So I think the first half is a really good play. I think the first quarter is probably also a really good play, but maybe stick with the first half either way. So I'm gonna close it out with another game leader bet here for this Pelly's game against the Thunder. Just go right back there. I got both my player props in the other video from Boston, Miami, so I figured I'd stay on this Pelly's game here in best bets and go with Trey Murphy to lead the game in 3-pointers made in this one. And it's between he and CJ. Like let's call it what it is. I mean, they're going to be continue taking the amount of shots that they take when either Zion or BI is not on the floor. And then their 3-pointers just they tend to go up, obviously. And they both put CJ took 2 fewer in this last game, and Trey Murphy went 5 for 12. And I think that's going to continue to be the case. The main reason I like Trey to get the threes at it's plus 260 on DraftKings, and you can just see the game leaders tab. By the way, it's like it's its own tab on DraftKings called Game Leaders. And the 3-pointers for Trey. The reason I do like him mostly over CJ, I suppose the other, if Isaiah, it's like there's nobody on the Thunder that I'm worried about. It would really be someone who was coming off the bench that just randomly got hot, like a random 7 3-point game for Isaiah Joe, which we've seen a couple times, but not sure the volume will be there for Isaiah Joe. So I'm going to go with someone I know is going to take at least 10 threes in this game. I mean, let's put it this way, at least 8, most likely if he's hitting and gets another 44-minute outing like we got from Trey Murphy last game where they're relying on him a ton, then yeah, the volume will continue to be there and he'll continue getting the most attempts. And he did, like I said, had a couple more than CJ. The 5 for 12 for him as a spot up shooter. So he actually took 10 of those 12 from the spot up, and that's what I'm really looking at here is the Thunder are the fourth worst team in terms of giving up points per game to spot up shooters. And that's what he's doing is a lot of that catch and shoot. A bit of, I mean, it's still spot up when he gets it and takes one dribble, right? Because he's standing there waiting for the ball. So that's the difference between the catch and shoot and the spot up. And he's good off the dribble from the 3 as well. So I don't want to make it seem like he's just this catch and shoot guy. He pulled some really big threes out of his butt in that game that went in big moments when they needed him too. So I think he's really just sort of shown that he deserves the playing time. I'm sure you were listening to Zach Lowe, your boy, who was talking about how there has to be a place for Trey Murphy and Herb Jones to start on this team next season. He's like, I don't know who you have to kick off this lineup or trade. He kind of intimated it should be BI, but let's not get into that drama. We'll just keep it to the idea that like between the defense of Trey Murphy and then the shot making as well, like, yeah, he's got to be out there. And so I think if you look at him at like 38 minutes, right, I think that would be his floor at this point without Zion Williamson in there. And in the 13 games this year that he played at least 38 minutes, he went over this number in 8 of them, right? So 8 of 13 in terms of his 3.5 point prop. I should be very clear, which I think 4 to 5 threes should do it, right? Like unless obviously if CJ goes bonkers and bananas, then that's fine. But we saw CJ get the ball taken out of his hands as well. Like I do think there's probably a little bit of positive regression. The point that you made about CJ and BI being a little bit better on offense in terms of, maybe not scoring because CJ had 20. And I mean, I don't think this game is going to turn into like a 220, 230 point game anytime soon. I don't think that's what this series is meant for. It's two teams that play very good defense on jump shooters as well. So yeah, I think for Trey, like, one, he can shoot the furthest. If you look at a couple of his threes, they were 29 feet and further from there. So like he's a little bit more less vulnerable, let's say, to the style of defense that the Thunder play as opposed to CJ, who's going to have a little bit more matchup problems.
Yeah, I definitely like this one more than the SGA pick at the same odds. I mean, there's just less competition, like you're saying. Like OKC doesn't have volume 3-point shooters. I mean, I guess if Giddey's able to play and the Pelicans are just gonna leave him open all night and see if he can make like 4 or 5. But yeah, Trey is the guy who's like, I'm letting it fly if I have a sliver here, and capitalizing on all the attention paid to those two guys, getting plenty of looks in game one here. And the fact that, yeah, like OKC played a bunch of garbage down the stretch, so they gave up a bunch of threes, but it was only 31% opponent shooting at home down the stretch in their last 14 home games, and now they're facing like a legit team, obviously, and a guy who his confidence is sky high, and he knows what he's out there to do on offense. Let it fly.
Yeah, I would say J Dub might be the biggest threat if he's like the outlet for SGA when he gets doubled up at the top of the key. But yeah, if it's Giddey, then Jesus, I'll put even more on this. If that's the biggest threat to it, for sure. Like if Josh Giddey was standing wide open at the top of the key and Trey Murphy had a hand in his face for 10 shots, I'd probably take Trey Murphy to make more. So that's all the time we have for you in best bets, though. Continue to follow along, subscribe to that page. Also check out the play of props that we're bringing you each and every day moving forward during this postseason. So until we see you next, happy betting.